My name is Ethan Miller. I'm 24 years old, and this happened in a small town in northern Colorado, the kind of place where everyone knows your car before they know your name. For 3 years, I thought I was in a solid, boring in a good way relationship with Lauren, 23. We talked about moving to Denver one day, about dogs, about someday. Nothing dramatic, nothing toxic, or so I thought. That night started like any other. Lauren was sitting on the couch scrolling her phone, legs tucked under a blanket I bought her last winter. I was making instant coffee in the kitchen, already half asleep, when her phone buzzed again. And again, short vibrations. The kind people try to hide. Everything okay? I asked casually. She didn't even look up. Yeah, just Emily being dramatic again. That should have been the end of it. And honestly, for a few seconds, it was. But when she got up to shower, she left her phone face up on the couch. Lauren never did that. Ever. I'm not proud of what I did next. But if you've ever felt that quiet panic crawl up your spine, you'll understand. The screen lit up. Ryan, I can't stop thinking about last night. I didn't open the message. I didn't need to. My hands started shaking so badly I had to sit down. I told myself there had to be an explanation. Cousin, co-worker, wrong context, anything. When Lauren came back, towel around her hair, humming like nothing in the world was wrong, I asked her directly, "Who's Ryan?" She didn't hesitate. That was the scariest part. "Oh, he's just a guy from work." "Why?" "No reason," I said. "Your phone just kept buzzing." She laughed, leaned down, kissed my forehead. "You worry too much." That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, replaying every moment from the past few months. The late shifts, the sudden gym obsession, the way she'd turn her phone screen down. All the pieces I ignored because trusting her was easier than questioning everything. Over the next 2 weeks, the signs multiplied. Lauren grew distant but nicer at the same time, like she was compensating. She picked fights over nothing. She also bought me random gifts. Guilt has a weird way of showing itself. I finally cracked when I ran into Ryan at the local bar. He didn't know who I was, but I knew who he was immediately. The confidence. The way the bartender greeted him by name. The way Lauren used to look at me before she stopped. That's when I realized something worse than the cheating itself. She didn't plan to leave me. She planned to keep me. And I had no idea that this betrayal would be the thing that eventually led me to Claire Thompson, a 34-year-old woman who would change everything I thought I knew about love, power, and revenge. But I wasn't there yet. Not even close. I didn't confront Lauren right away. That might make me sound weak, but the truth is, I needed to be sure. Not emotionally sure. I already was, but factually sure. Once you say the words out loud, there's no taking them back. So I watched. I noticed how she started guarding her phone like it was a loaded weapon. How she'd step outside to take calls even when it was freezing. How she suddenly forgot to invite me when her co-workers went out for drinks, even though I'd always been welcome before. One night, I asked her point blank if something was wrong between us. She sighed dramatically, like I was exhausting her. "Ethan, you're being paranoid. You've been weird lately." That was the moment something inside me hardened. Not anger. Clarity. A few days later, I made a decision I never thought I'd make. While she was asleep, I unlocked her phone. I already knew her passcode, my birthday. The irony almost made me laugh. I wish I could say I found one devastating message, and that was it. But the truth was worse. There were weeks of texts. Photos that weren't meant for me. Voice messages full of laughter I hadn't heard in months. Ryan wasn't a mistake. He was a parallel relationship. I sat on the bathroom floor until sunrise, scrolling until my thumb went numb. When Lauren woke up and found me there, she didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just stared at me like a cornered animal. "How long?" I asked. She crossed her arms. Defensive. "Does it matter?" That answer hurt more than anything else. She admitted to everything with a strange calmness, like she'd rehearsed it. She said it just happened, that she still loved me, that Ryan meant nothing. She asked if we could work through it. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just told her it was over. She moved out that weekend. The town found out fast. Small towns always do. Suddenly, people were choosing sides. Some told me I dodged a bullet. Others awkwardly avoided eye contact, like cheating was contagious. The silence after she left was unbearable. I'd come home from work and sit on the couch staring at the wall, replaying memories I couldn't trust anymore. Every laugh felt fake in hindsight. Every "I love you" felt borrowed. That's when I started going to Harper's Cafe every morning. At first, it was just to avoid being alone. Same seat, same black coffee, same time. And that's where I noticed her. She didn't try to get attention. She didn't scroll her phone aggressively or laugh too loud. She read actual books, hardcovers. Sometimes she'd underline things with a pen. One morning, she caught me looking and raised an eyebrow. "You're going to burn a hole in that table if you keep staring like that," she said. Her voice was calm, confident, not flirtatious, just grounded. "Sorry," I said. "Long week." She closed her book and extended a hand. "I'm Claire." "Ethan." She smiled, not the kind of smile that promises something, but the kind that says I'm not impressed, but I'm listening. We talked for 10 minutes. About the weather, the town, the cafes, terrible pastries. Nothing personal. But when I left, I realized something unsettling. For the first time since Lauren, my chest didn't feel tight. And I had no idea that Claire already knew more about pain and about patience than anyone I'd ever met. I didn't go to Harper's Cafe the next day on purpose. That scared me. Instead, I drove past it on my way to work, telling myself I was busy, that 10 minutes of small talk with a stranger didn't mean anything. I was still raw, still angry, still technically heartbroken. The last thing I needed was to latch onto someone new. By Thursday, I was back in the same seat. Claire was already there, same corner table, different book. She looked up when I walked in, like she'd been expecting me, but didn't wave or smile right away. She waited. That detail stuck with me. "Running late," she said when I sat down. "I wasn't sure I'd come," I admitted. She nodded, like that made sense. Most people don't know what to do with quiet after something breaks. That was the first personal thing she said, and it hit uncomfortably close. We didn't talk about Lauren. Not yet. Claire talked about moving to town 5 years ago after a divorce that ended exactly the way it should have. She didn't trash her ex. She didn't paint herself as a victim. She talked like someone who'd already done the work. She was 34, worked remotely as a marketing consultant, and had a way of listening that made you want to be precise with your words. No fake sympathy. No interruptions. A week passed. Then 2. Our cafe conversations became routine. Still nothing flirtatious. Just honesty in small, controlled doses. Meanwhile, Lauren's name kept finding its way back to me. She texted once, then twice. Apologies mixed with nostalgia. She said she missed us. I didn't respond. Then Ryan's name popped up again, this time in a conversation I overheard at the grocery store. Apparently, Lauren had already moved on. Publicly. That stung more than I expected. One morning, I showed up at the cafe visibly off. Claire noticed immediately. "You look like someone reopened a wound," she said. I laughed without humor. Something like that. She waited. Didn't push. Eventually, the words came out. "Not everything. Just enough." "She cheated," I said. "And now she's acting like I never mattered." Claire took a slow sip of her coffee. "That kind of betrayal messes with your sense of reality," she said. "You start questioning your own memory." I stared at her. Yeah, exactly that. That was the day our conversations shifted. Still careful, still restrained, but deeper. She didn't tell me what to do. She didn't validate my anger blindly. She asked questions that forced me to think instead of spiral. Over time, I noticed something else. People noticed us. In a town this small, 2 people meeting regularly is enough to spark rumors. I heard my name once at the bar, paired with some older woman from the cafe. It didn't bother me. If anything, it felt oddly satisfying. Lauren noticed too. She started liking my posts again, watching my stories. Then one night, she showed up at my place unannounced, claiming she just wanted closure. I didn't let her in. From the porch, I watched her walk back to her car, frustrated, confused. And for the first time, I realized something important. I wasn't healing by accident anymore. Claire hadn't touched me, hadn't crossed a line. But somehow, she was already helping me take back control. And Lauren could feel it slipping. Lauren didn't give up after that night. She texted me long paragraphs that started with apologies and ended with guilt. She reminded me of inside jokes, trips we took, promises we made when we were younger and thought love was enough to survive anything. I read them all. I didn't answer. Claire noticed the shift in me before I said anything. "You're distracted," she said one morning, closing her book without marking the page. That's usually a sign someone else is still controlling the room. I exhaled slowly. She wants to talk. I think she hates that I'm not reacting. Claire nodded. "Some people don't miss you." They missed the version of themselves that felt safe when you were around. That sentence stayed with me. Around that time, Claire and I started spending time outside the cafe. Nothing that could be labeled a date. Walks through the town park. Coffee refills that turned into lunch. Conversations that drifted into evenings without either of us pointing it out. The age difference was there, but it didn't feel like a gap. It felt like stability meeting restlessness. One night, while walking back to our cars, Claire stopped. "Ethan," she said carefully, "I need to say something before this goes any further." I braced myself. "I'm not interested in being a rebound," she continued. "And I won't help you hurt someone just to feel better." I met her eyes. "I don't want to hurt anyone." She studied me for a moment, then smiled faintly. "Good. Because revenge only works when it's about truth, not pain." That was the first time the idea crossed my mind. Not revenge as rage, but as exposure. A week later, the opportunity presented itself. A mutual friend told me Lauren had been telling people a revised version of events. According to her, we drifted apart. I became distant. Ryan just showed up after things were already over. It was a clean lie. Polished. Easy to believe. I told Claire everything that night. She didn't react right away. She asked for details. Timelines. What proof I had. What I wanted to happen. "I don't want her destroyed," I said. "I just don't want to be the villain in her story." Claire leaned back in her chair. "Then don't be. Let her own version collapse under its own weight." That's when she outlined it. Not a plan exactly. More like a framework. No public shaming. No direct confrontation. Just strategic honesty, delivered in the right order, to the right people. "She's already lying," Claire said. "All you have to do is stop protecting her." The next few weeks were careful, calculated. Claire helped me organize screenshots, dates, conversations, not to post online, but to be ready. Meanwhile, Lauren grew more erratic. She sent angry messages when I didn't reply, then sad ones, then nostalgic ones again. The swings were obvious. And then she made her mistake. She invited me to a small gathering at a friend's place, claiming she wanted to clear the air. She said everyone would be there, including Ryan. I told Claire. She smiled, calm, knowing. "Well," she said, "that's convenient." I didn't feel angry anymore. I felt ready. I almost didn't go. Not because I was afraid of seeing Lauren or Ryan, but because part of me wanted to keep my peace intact. Claire noticed the hesitation immediately when I told her. "Peace doesn't mean avoidance," she said. "It means you choose when and how you engage." That settled it. I arrived at the house just after 8. Small crowd. Familiar faces. The kind of place where conversations overlap and nobody expects anything dramatic. Lauren spotted me the moment I walked in. Her expression shifted. Relief, then something closer to triumph. Ryan was there. Taller than me. Louder than me. The kind of guy who fills space without noticing. Lauren wasted no time. She pulled me aside, acting like we were still a unit. "I just want everyone to be comfortable," she said. "No tension." I nodded. "Then honesty helps." She stiffened. As the night went on, the story she'd been telling began to unravel, not because I attacked it, but because I let people ask questions. Dates didn't line up. Details shifted. Someone mentioned seeing Lauren and Ryan together weeks before our breakup. Ryan looked confused. That was the moment Claire's advice clicked. Truth doesn't need volume. It needs patience. Eventually, Ryan pulled me aside. "Man, I didn't know you guys were still together when we started," he said, genuinely unsettled. I showed him the screenshots. Not with satisfaction. Just calmly. He left shortly after. Lauren followed me outside, furious. "You planned this," she hissed. "No," I said. "You did." Her mask cracked. She accused me of manipulation, of embarrassing her, of moving on too fast. She mentioned Claire by name, sneering. That's when I realized something important. She wasn't angry about the truth. She was angry about losing control of the narrative. The next morning, the town buzzed. Not with gossip, with correction. People talked quietly, thoughtfully. The lie didn't explode. It faded. Claire and I met at the cafe like always. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Lighter," I said. And I meant it. That was the day we crossed the line, carefully. No dramatic confession. No sudden kiss in the rain. Just a long look that lasted a second too long. A shared understanding. Later that evening, she invited me over for dinner. Her place was modest. Clean. Lived in. No performative touches. We cooked together, moved around each other easily. When she touched my hand, it wasn't rushed. It wasn't claiming. It was deliberate. I don't rush into things, she said softly. I know, I replied. That's why I'm here. We didn't sleep together that night. We talked until midnight instead. About mistakes. About age. About timing. And for the first time since everything fell apart, I didn't feel like I was rebuilding something broken. I felt like I was building something new, slowly, intentionally, and without lies. The town settled back into its usual rhythm faster than I expected. That's the strange thing about small places. Scandals don't linger when there's no drama left to feed them. Lauren stopped texting. Ryan disappeared from conversations entirely. The narrative corrected itself and then moved on. I stayed. So did Claire. Our relationship didn't announce itself. No posts. No labels. Just time spent together that felt aligned. She didn't try to reshape me, and I didn't feel the need to perform. The age difference became background noise, replaced by something steadier. One night, sitting on her porch with a glass of wine, Claire said something that stuck. People think maturity is about age, she said. It's really about accountability. That was when I realized this wasn't just about Lauren anymore. It was about who I was becoming after her. A few weeks later, Lauren reached out one last time. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't angry either. It was neutral, careful. I hope you're happy, she wrote. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I showed it to Claire. She wants a reaction, Claire said. Even a polite one. So I didn't reply. That silence did more than any revenge ever could. As summer rolled in, Claire and I grew closer, still restrained, still intentional. When we finally crossed that line, it wasn't explosive. It was quiet, mutual, and honest. No pretending it meant more than it did. No fear it meant less. And then Lauren saw us together. It happened at the farmer's market on a Saturday morning. Claire's hand was resting casually on my arm. Lauren froze when she noticed us. Her expression wasn't anger. It was disbelief. Later, I heard she'd been telling people I replaced her with someone older. That I was going through something. I didn't correct it. Because this time, the story didn't need fixing. Claire and I talked about it that night. Are you okay being seen like this? She asked. With me? I smiled. I've never felt more seen. That was the moment I understood something important. The real revenge wasn't exposure. It wasn't humiliation. It was growth. And Lauren could feel it. The funny thing about closure is that it rarely comes when you're looking for it. By the time fall rolled in, I'd stopped checking over my shoulder for Lauren entirely. My life had structure again. Mornings at the cafe, workdays that didn't feel endless, evenings with Claire that felt earned instead of desperate. That's when Lauren tried one last time to re-enter my world. She didn't text. She didn't call. She showed up. It was a Thursday evening. Claire and I were walking downtown after dinner, hands brushing but not fully intertwined. We saw Lauren before she saw us. She looked smaller than I remembered, tired, less certain. She stepped directly into my path. Can we talk? She asked, ignoring Claire completely. Claire didn't say a word. She simply took half a step back, giving me space and choice. What do you want, Lauren? I asked. Her eyes flicked to Claire, then back to me. I just need to understand how you moved on so fast. I almost laughed. Not out of cruelty, out of disbelief. You moved on before we were even over, I said quietly. I just stopped pretending. Her face flushed. That's not fair. Neither was lying, I replied. Claire spoke then, calmly. I think you already understand. You just don't like the answer. Lauren looked at her like she'd been slapped. She opened her mouth, then closed it. There was nothing left to say. She walked away without another word. That night, Claire and I sat in silence for a long time. You handled that well, she said. I didn't feel angry, I admitted. I felt done. She smiled. That's how you know. A week later, I heard Lauren was planning to move to Denver. New job. Fresh start. I genuinely hoped it worked out for her. That surprised me. Claire noticed. You're not bitter, she said. That's rare. I just don't want to carry her anymore. Our relationship deepened after that, not dramatically, but intentionally. We talked about expectations, about how neither of us wanted to rush, but neither of us wanted to hide. I don't need forever promises, Claire said. I need honesty. She got it. The town adjusted again. People stopped whispering. Claire became the woman Ethan's seeing, not the older one. The labels faded. One night, sitting on that same porch where everything seemed to slow down, Claire asked me something unexpected. If Lauren had never cheated, she said, do you think we'd be here? I thought about it carefully. No, I said. And that doesn't mean I'm grateful it happened. It just means I learned. She nodded. That's the difference between revenge and growth. I realized then that what we'd done wasn't about getting even. It was about refusing to stay small. Winter came early that year. The town changed when the snow hit. Quieter streets, longer nights, fewer reasons to go out unless you really wanted to. Claire and I wanted to. Our time together became more domestic, more real. Cooking dinners instead of eating out. Reading on opposite ends of the couch. Falling asleep to documentaries neither of us finished. It wasn't exciting in a loud way, but it felt solid. That's when I realized something uncomfortable. I was happier than I'd ever been, and a part of me felt guilty about it. I told Claire one night, staring at the frost gathering on her window. Sometimes I feel like I cheated the process, I said. Like I skipped some kind of suffering I was supposed to go through. She smiled gently. Pain isn't a requirement for growth, she said. It's just common. Around that time, I heard Lauren's name again. A mutual friend mentioned she'd broken up with Ryan shortly after moving. Apparently, things hadn't gone the way she expected. There was no satisfaction in hearing that. Just distance. What surprised me was how little it affected me. That was when Claire suggested something I didn't expect. You should write about it, she said. Not for anyone else. For yourself. So I did. I wrote everything. The denial, the betrayal, the silence, the choices I made afterward. I didn't sugarcoat my mistakes. I didn't villainize Lauren. I just told the truth. When I finished, I realized something important. The revenge was never the point. The clarity was. A few days later, Claire met Lauren, unintentionally. It happened at the grocery store. Claire told me about it afterward, casually, like it didn't matter. But I could tell it did. She looked at me like I stole something. Claire said. But I didn't feel defensive. How did you feel? I asked. Relieved, she said. Because I know I didn't take anything that wasn't freely given. That night, Claire and I talked about the future, not in promises, but in possibilities. Travel, career shifts, what staying in a small town meant for each of us. I'm not afraid of the age gap, she said. I'm afraid of wasting time pretending something isn't real. I took her hand. I'm not pretending. Outside, snow fell quietly. No drama, no spectacle, just truth settling where lies used to live. And for the first time, I understood what real power felt like. Not control over someone else. Control over myself. By spring, the town felt different again. Not because anything changed, but because I had. I stopped thinking of myself as the guy who got cheated on. That identity had been convenient for a while. It explained my anger. It justified my distance. But it also kept me tethered to something I'd already outgrown. Claire noticed before I did. You're lighter, she said one morning at the cafe, smiling over her mug. Not happier, just settled. I knew what she meant. Around that time, Lauren reached out again. Not to me, to Claire. She sent a message through social media. Polite, careful, asking to talk. Claire showed it to me without hesitation. I'm not obligated to respond, she said. But I wanted you to know. What do you want to do? I asked. She thought for a moment. I think silence already said enough. And that was it. No confrontation. No final showdown. Just the quiet acknowledgement that some chapters don't need epilogues. Claire and I had grown into something that didn't need defense. We weren't trying to prove anything. To the town, to Lauren, or to ourselves. One evening, while walking past the same bar where I first saw Ryan months earlier, I realized how strange it was that the place no longer triggered anything. No tension, no resentment, just memory without emotion. That's when it hit me. The betrayal had given me a choice. I could have stayed bitter. I could have tried to win. I could have turned revenge into my personality. Instead, I chose honesty, even when it was uncomfortable. Claire squeezed my hand. You okay? She asked. Yeah, I said, just realizing how far this could have gone the wrong way. She smiled. And didn't. The town eventually stopped seeing us as a story at all. We were just two people who ended up together in an unexpected way. Sometimes, that's the most radical ending there is. Summer came quietly that year, and with it, a sense of normalcy I hadn't known I was missing. The streets of our small town were warmer, brighter, and somehow larger, as if the world itself had opened up once I stopped carrying the weight of betrayal and anger. I realized that real change doesn't announce itself. It creeps in through moments you barely notice, like walking past the bakery with Claire or sharing a quiet evening on her porch. Claire and I had established a rhythm by then. Not a flashy romance with declarations and drama, but a steady, patient connection. We cooked together, shared long walks, and talked about everything from the mundane to the life-altering. I never felt the need to impress her, and she never felt the need to test me. That balance was new for me, but it felt right. I remember one afternoon sitting on the porch with her, watching the sun dip behind the mountains. I said, almost casually, I never thought I'd feel like this again. She glanced at me, her expression soft but piercing. You mean happy? More than that, I admitted. At peace. Like I can finally breathe without wondering what's coming next. She smiled and leaned her head against my shoulder. That's the thing about truth, Ethan. It doesn't shout. It just settles. The memory of Lauren and Ryan had faded, not entirely, but enough that they didn't dominate my thoughts. I realized that the revenge I'd envisioned so vividly, the exposure, the confrontation, the satisfaction of watching lies crumble, had already happened in the most subtle and effective way possible. By living honestly, by reclaiming my life, I had won in a sense that mattered far more than any dramatic spectacle. The ex-girlfriend's attempts to manipulate the narrative no longer held power because I had refused to participate. One evening, Claire suggested we visit the small lake just outside town. The kind of place where kids learned to swim and couples brought picnic baskets. We walked hand in hand along the shore, the water reflecting the fading light. I never realized, I said, how much I needed this. Not the revenge part, not the drama, just real life. She nodded. It's funny, isn't it? Sometimes it takes the worst experiences to show us what's truly valuable. I squeezed her hand. You've changed how I see everything. Not just relationships, but trust, patience, even myself. Claire didn't reply immediately. She simply stopped walking and turned to face me. Her eyes were calm, steady, and I felt a weight lift off my chest. That's what makes it worth it, she said finally. Not the past, not the pain, but what comes after. The day faded, and we stayed until the sun disappeared completely, sitting on a blanket at the water's edge. Silence fell comfortably between us, punctuated only by the occasional bird or distant splash. I realized I had stopped thinking about how to get back at Lauren. I had stopped obsessing over what she was doing or how she'd moved on. It didn't matter anymore. By the time we returned home, I knew I'd never feel that lingering resentment again. Instead, I carried a quiet satisfaction, not of vengeance, but of growth. I had survived betrayal, endured humiliation, and discovered that the strongest form of power was choosing integrity, patience, and connection over anger and manipulation. That night, sitting beside Claire, I reflected on everything. The heartbreak, the slow burn with her, the small-town gossip, the careful unraveling of lies. It all led me here, to a place I hadn't imagined existed, a sense of clarity, partnership, and inner strength. Lauren faded from my life without fanfare, and in her place was something far better: honesty, understanding, and the kind of love that doesn't demand proof. Claire's presence was steady, real, and transformative. She wasn't just my escape from betrayal. She was a mirror, reflecting the best version of myself back at me. And as I drifted to sleep that night, I realized something I hadn't known before. Revenge might feel sweet in imagination, but truth and connection are infinitely more satisfying. That, more than any public humiliation or vindication, was the ultimate closure.